Hey everybody, it's your old pal Uncle Phil, and just remember, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Um, I have not quite gone to shining level pandemonium here, but I am cooped up in a tiny little cabin in the snow, and I can see that movie makes a lot more sense now. Makes a lot more sense. But no, I'm getting out. I'm getting out into the world, interacting with humans. It's good. I've also just been fighting COVID, and I'd never had COVID before. This is my first time with COVID. Can you believe that? 2026. This is my. I guess I got it on New Year's Eve, 2025. But yeah. Anyhow, I managed to go the whole distance there and never get it. And this is a strange sickness. It is odd little virus. Anyhow, it's had me a little bit behind on producing content, but that's okay because nobody watches, and it's not like life depends on this. But I was I was thinking about something. I was thinking, well, first I'm going to start with the song because I recorded something last week and I was going to put it out, and then I realized I forgot to do the song. And I really do like the idea of documenting a playlist. Uncle Phil's playlist. Again, nobody else may care, but I like my kids will like this down the road. I know they will because they're both music people. Um, so today I'm going to do the song first because I don't want to forget at the end. The song for today is Elvis Costello, "Brilliant Mistake" off of the King of America album, I believe. Produced, if I'm not mistaken, by T-Bone Burnett, Dallas boy, who has made a few albums that you might have heard of. Anyhow, yeah, Brilliant Mistake, Elvis Costello. Check it out. Great song. Love that song. But yeah, I was thinking about that song, and I was thinking about a conversation I had with my dad 21 years ago. And the reason I know it was 21 years ago is it coincided very closely with the birth of my children. So my kids, we have twins. They were born. It was an emergency C-section. There was pandemonium, and it was, things went wrong. There were mistakes made by the hospital. Anyhow, the first week of my kids' lives were, it was just nuts. It was chaos, and almost lost our daughter because of something that happened at the hospital. Anyhow, as you can imagine, when that kind of high intensity trauma is happening, everything gets sort of burned into memory pretty hardcore. So I can literally, if I went and looked at a calendar, I could tell you what day this conversation happened. But what happened was, a week after our kids are born, there was this emergency surgery to save our daughter's life, which worked, thank God. And the day after that, right, I had a weekend wedding to perform. I was a minister, and I had agreed to do this wedding, as you do, many, many months in advance, never dreaming it would coincide with my kid's birth and that the birth would be chaos. Anyhow, I had agreed to do this wedding, and it was a Friday night rehearsal dinner, Saturday wedding, and it was like at a bed and breakfast in the country at a winery or some nonsense. I don't know. It was a couple hours outside of Dallas, and I'm we've just gone through the surgery. The week before, I've been spending every minute that they would allow us into the NICU. I've been sitting at my kids' bedsides. It's been nuts. I'm exhausted. I'm fried. And I'm like, oh shit, I have to do this stupid wedding. And my dad, my sweet dad, who, he was in the biz, he was a minister his whole life. He was like, hey, I'm going to go with you because you're going to fall asleep at the wheel driving to that stupid wedding. You're going to fall asleep at the wheel and die. You're going to have a car accident and die. This is one of my dad's great concerns, vehicular death. He was very concerned with that. He was always like, always just pull over and get a cup of coffee. Never, he really concerned about us falling asleep at the wheel. So he was like, I'm not going to let you go to that thing by yourself because you're going to fall asleep at the wheel. So he said, I'm going to come with you. He knew the guy that was getting married. He knew the family. And he was like, I'll come with you. I'll be your plus one. So I was like, oh, that's great. Thank you, Dad. So we're leaving Dallas, and I was driving south on Interstate 35, and you go sort of over there, you're sort of traveling to the west of Dallas. You can kind of look back over the Dallas downtown skyline, and before we were hooking off heading west. And I was talking to my dad about in particular about this new church that had sprung up downtown in Dallas, because again, we were both in the biz. And I was fascinated with this church that had sprung up. It was meeting in like a public, like a, they didn't build a church. They were like renting a city facility, like a meeting area. And anyhow, I was sort of fascinated because downtown Dallas at the time, I don't know what it's like these days. I think it's been a little invigorated, but at the time, downtown Dallas was not like a normal downtown. Like nobody hung out in downtown Dallas. It was gritty and dead other than during work hours. And so I was asking my dad, I was like, well, have you heard about Reunion Church? And this is sort of the hot property. And my dad, because he worked at a seminary, he was very aware of hot trends of what was going on in ministry. And he was sort of, he's old enough to not get excited about everything. And I could tell, though, he was sort of nonplussed about this, and he was not really into the conversation. So I kind of like, whatever, that's fine. And there was this pause, and we were, he was kind of looking out the window of the car, looking over at downtown Dallas. And he said something just out of the blue. He goes, do you ever just think, son, that we just got it wrong? We just completely got it wrong. Now, you have to understand, people who knew my dad in his sort of public arena, like they knew him in ministry, they knew him as their pastor. My dad he was a big personality. He could really light up a room. He was funny. He was, vivacious. He was a musician, a performer. He had all those capabilities, but deep down, he was a melancholic, and he knew it. Like deep down, he was a melancholic, and he was also a deeply sort of philosophical man. Like he loved music. That was the arts that he loved. But like, for example, I got a degree in literature because I love novels and poetry and stuff. My dad was like, why would you read a piece of fiction when you could go read something that's factual or just do something? Like you could do something real or read something. Like he wasn't judgmental about it. He just was like, scratch his head. Like, I don't understand. Why would you do that? So like he would sit around, and what he would read was like theology and philosophy and history and things like that. So I was not surprised that my dad was capable of a deep existential thought while driving down Interstate 35. What caught me was the fact that it was the utter scope of it. Do you think we just got it wrong? Do you ever just think we got it wrong? And I was trying to piece together, like he's looking at it downtown Dallas. So I was like, you mean Dallas? Or then I was like, well, we were just talking about church. You mean church? Like, what are you talking about? And again, I'm exhausted. I'm fried. I got very few brain cells working at high levels at this point. And he's like, all of it. Like all of it. What, you ever just wonder if we just got it all wrong? And I'm like, what are you doing to me here, man? What are you talking about? What is this? What are we, I don't understand. He said, I don't know. He said, I just like, look at Dallas. He said, it's just this sort of shrine to sort of money and corporations and business. And it's these high rises, and people are in these little, these little cubicles, these, veal fattening pens, and, just clicking away in imaginary numbers on computers and spreadsheets, and, and for what, and then church, we just sort of neatly tuck ourselves in the middle of all that, and we become businesses and corporations and institutions. And he said, you ever just think we got it wrong? Now, at this point, I am 30 years old, something like that. I guess. I don't know. 31 when this happens. And I am, in my mind, I am at the height of ministry. I don't know it, but I'm about to have a precipitous fall in terms of my stature in ministry, my professional stature in ministry. But at that point, I had like been on an ascendant line. Like I had been blowing and going. I'd been involved in a ministry that had really grown a lot, and I was pretty well liked, and people were interested in me. And I was actually in the process of talking to a guy up in Seattle about moving up to Seattle to work at a church there. And I was like, I had visions of like changing the world. Again, idiot. I did not know that I was about to, pride comes before the fall for sure. And I was like, oh man, so when he says this to me, do you think we just got it wrong? I'm like, I don't know where to put that. Cause also another wrinkle of this is my dad was my hero, man. My dad was absolutely my hero. If I'm ever half the man my dad was, I will have accomplished something. But my dad was my hero. And I'm like, I didn't go into ministry because of him. Like I wasn't trying to become him. But there's no doubt that since I saw that modeled, I saw him, and he was such a consummate pastor. He was a true shepherd. He really cared about people, really cared about in a way that I didn't, which was part of my problem in ministry. He really cared about people, and so he was so good at being a shepherd. I think that undoubtedly contributed to normalizing that for me to like after college go to seminary and like go into ministry. So for him to go, maybe we missed the boat. I'm like, this now throws into question my whole life. Like, now what do I do? So I was like, what? And again, I'm fried, I'm tired, and I'm like, what? I said, what the hell are you talking about? Like I said to him, I said these words. I said, you can't do this to me right now. I said, you can't do this to me. You can't just dump that on me. Like, forget that I'm like wiped out and my brain's not functioning. I've built my life around some basic ideas that I kind of saw you and mom and you emulate. Like I'm kind of following in your footsteps. You can't turn to me now. I guess he was probably pushing 70, 68, maybe. I'm trying to think what year it would have been. I don't know. Anyhow, yeah, like 68, something like that. And I'm like, you can't just like pull that out and go, hey, I think maybe we completely missed the mark. Like he's on the decline of his work and occupation and profession and his life. I'm just starting. So I'm like, well, if I need to get off this bus, I was like, I don't even know. What are you talking? Like, what would even be the implications? What would we do? I was kind of freaking out a little bit. And again, I was pretty fried. And he was like, I don't know. I just sometimes think we got it completely wrong. I think none of this is as it should be. And we just don't even know it. And I was like, and he went, I remember he said, don't worry about it. Just keep your eye on the road. Just keep your eyes on the road. Just don't just forget I said anything. Just keep going. And I'm like, what? And I'm driving down the road and I'm like, and then we had to go to a wedding, and then the next day, anyhow, kids come home from a hospital. I didn't, it's not that I forgot about the conversation, but that conversation definitely went up on a shelf somewhere. But what's funny is I've never forgotten that conversation. I've probably thought about that conversation once a month for the last 21 years. Okay. Like it locked in there. And I think it's popped up recently in the last couple of years because I've been looking. I mean, I think the world looks, I think we can all look and go, some of our assumptions about how the world works, sort of economically, geopolitically, maybe we didn't have things as sorted out, and maybe we weren't quite as enlightened as we thought we were. The church, church in decline, the whole movement I was a sort of a part of, that sort of evangelical church growth movement of the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s has really collapsed to a large degree, and largely then just kind of gone very politically partisan. I mean, in a way it kind of always was, but it's really, really very evident now. Anyhow, I'm like, I was thinking about what my dad said, and I'm like, yeah, I think he's onto something there. I think we might have gotten some stuff wrong. But then here's the little wrinkle that hit me anew. Because again, I've been thinking about this for a long, long, long time. But what hit me brand new was thinking about it on a very personal level, right? Because it's easy to look out at the globe and look out at the world and go, man, the world's messed up. But then I was like, oh man, what if I got it wrong? Which in a way was the original thing that concerned me when my dad brought it up was, do I have it wrong? And you realize that you go through life in many cases just sort of just going with the flow, right? Like I once had this deep fascination with lemmings because the whole apparently it may not be as true as we think, but the whole lemmings chasing rushing off a cliff, they just sort of run off a cliff and don't know why. They just all suddenly one day they're like, hey, let's go, and then they all come out of their holes and they all jump off the cliff and kill themselves. And I got really fascinated. I saw that on a little science film strip in 6th grade. And I was like, wait, what? But sort of metaphorically, that idea. Yeah, I think sometimes we're just lemmings, just sort of like, why are we running? I don't know. And we're just going off the cliff. But I think about it when you have a second to stop and you go, what about all the assumptions that informed my life and made me make the decisions I was going to make? I'm at a point now where I've sort of unpacked a lot of those things, and it's not like I had sort of this aha revelation all at once, because I've had questions my entire life. Like I've had stuff that I've doubted and wondered about, and I felt tension about, that I didn't feel like I had good answers for my entire life, like earliest memories, entire life. And I think it's interesting to me to look at this and go, okay, it's not so much a question, what if we got it wrong? Or what if I got it wrong? The question, I think, and this is what hit me, is, of course I've gotten it wrong. On some level, the question is how much? Like, how wide of the mark did I go? Or in how many areas did I get things wrong? And then the follow-up question is, what can I do about it now? Like, how could I try to, with the next, I don't know how long I have left on this planet, with the next, let's call it 30 years. That's probably generous, given a number of factors, but 30 years. What could I do? Is there anything I could do a little better? Are there any course corrections I could make? And again, back to the lemming issue, it's tricky if you live in society, which I don't want to go live. I mean, I kind of want to go live in the woods. I kind of want to just take my camper van and solar panels and the compost toilet and disappear. I kind of want to do that. But I know that's probably not the right answer. I think we're built for relationships. I think we're designed to be in relationship with other human beings. So I'm sort of committed to this idea of being in society. So if you're going to be in society, how big of a swing can you make? Because if you make too big of a swing, if you do too much, then you get sort of jettisoned from society. But you also don't want to go, well, it's too hard to do anything different, so just like forget it. Like, what's the balance there? What's the tension that you can accomplish? Anyhow, that's been on my mind. That's been on my mind, is that conversation. What if we got it all wrong? And then realizing, literally like yesterday, of course we got it wrong. And more than that, of course I got it wrong. And I want to be intellectually humble enough to go, yeah, of course I got stuff wrong, man. I messed stuff up. I believe things I shouldn't have believed. I taught things I shouldn't have taught. But what do you do now? What do you do? Anyhow, there's my thoughts on this crisp, cool morning here in the Bavarian Alps. I hope you're doing okay. And then, by the way, that's why the song Brilliant Mistake is so good, because the The refrain is, it was a fine idea at the time, but now it's a brilliant mistake. And it's a great song. Check it out. It's a good one. It's one of my faves, man. I guess sort of everything on this playlist will be. I should just make the playlists in like Spotify and Apple so that people could follow along, and I should just add them, shouldn't I? Should I do that? For again, for I don't know who's listening, but anyhow, I'll probably do that. Anyhow, as always, because I hope I'm not wrong about this one. God loves you. God loves you. And as for me, I wish grace, peace, and love to everyone.